Welcome to 15-Minute Battles, where we demolish history's biggest conflicts in just 15 minutes. We dive deep into the world's most pivotal military clashes, from the ancient battlefields of Marathon to the complex strategies of modern warfare. The leaders, who were the legendary generals and forgotten heroes commanding the troops, and finally, the outcomes. If you love history, military strategy, and learning something new quickly, you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss another historic clash.
Picture this. Ancient Britain, 60 CE Rome, the world's superpower, thinks it has this wild island under control. They are dead wrong. This is the story of a warrior queen, a brutal injustice, and a rebellion that set Roman Britain ablaze. This is the story of Boudica. It all started with a broken promise. Prasutagus, king of the Iceni tribe, was a client king of Rome. To keep his people safe, he played by Roman rules. In his will, he left half his kingdom to the Roman emperor and the other half to his two daughters, hoping to ensure his family's and his kingdom's security. But Rome wanted it all. Upon his death, Roman officials annexed his entire kingdom, seized the lands of Iceni nobles, and treated the territory as conquered land. When his widow, Queen Boudica, protested, the Romans decided to make an example of her. In a display of ultimate dominance and disrespect, they had her publicly flogged. Then, in an act of unspeakable cruelty, they assaulted her young daughters. For the Romans, this was business as usual, crushing the spirit of a conquered people. For Boudica, it was the final, unforgivable insult. It lit a fire of vengeance that would engulf the province. Boudica was a striking figure. Roman historian Cassius Dio described her as tall, with a harsh voice and a piercing gaze. Her long, fiery red hair flowed down to her waist. Standing before her people, her body bruised but her spirit unbroken, she delivered a powerful call to arms. She rallied not only her own Iceni tribe, but also their neighbors, the Trinovantes, who had their own grievances against Roman colonists. Her message was simple and brutal: drive the Roman wolves back into the sea. This wasn't just a rebellion. It was a crusade for freedom and revenge. Their first target was Camulodunum, modern-day Colchester. This wasn't just any city. It was the symbolic heart of RomanBritain, a colony built for retired Roman veterans on land stolen from the Trinovantes. It was a beacon of Roman arrogance, and it was largely undefended. Boudica's massive rebel army descended on the city like a tidal wave. The veterans, overconfident and unprepared, were caught completely by surprise. The city was quickly overrun. Panicked Romans and their supporters sought refuge in the newly built Temple of Claudius, a massive stone structure dedicated to the emperor who had conquered Britain. For 2 days, they held out, but the rebels were relentless. They besieged the temple, and finally, they set it ablaze. The great temple became a funeral pyre. Boudica's forces showed no mercy. They slaughtered everyone they found, and the entire city was burned to the ground. Archaeologists today can still find a distinct, thick layer of red and black ash beneath Colchester, a physical scar left by Boudica's fury, known as the Boudican destruction layer. Meanwhile, the Roman governor Gaius Suetonius Paulinus was hundreds of miles away, campaigning on the island of Mona, now Anglesey in Wales, a stronghold of the Druids. When news of the uprising reached him, he acted swiftly. Taking his best cavalry, he raced south, hoping to save the province. His main legionary force would follow on foot. His next logical defense point was the burgeoning port town of Londinium, modern-day London. Londinium was a thriving commercial hub, packed with merchants, traders, and Roman citizens. But when Suetonius arrived, he faced a grim reality. His cavalry was not enough. His main army was still too far away. The rebel force, swollen with new recruits, was growing by the hour. Defending Londinium would mean getting trapped and annihilated. He made a cold, calculated, and heartbreaking decision. He abandoned the city to its fate. The residents who could flee with Suetonius's column did so. Those who stayed, the old, the infirm, or those who simply refused to leave their homes, faced the full wrath of Boudica's army. What happened at Camulodunum was repeated. Londinium was systematically looted, its inhabitants slaughtered without distinction, and the entire settlement was burned to ashes. The destruction layer is found there too. From London, the rebel army marched on Verulamium, today's St. Albans, another pro-Roman town. It met the same fiery end. In a matter of weeks, the three most important Roman centers in Britain had been wiped off the map. The Roman historian Tacitus estimates that over 70,000 Romans and pro-Roman Britons were killed in the massacres. Boudica's army seemed unstoppable. Suetonius Paulinus, now with his full force of around 10,000 men, knew he had to make a stand. The future of RomanBritain depended on a single battle. He was a skilled general, and he understood he couldn't fight Boudica's army, now estimated to be over 200,000 strong, on an open plain. He needed to choose his ground carefully to turn the rebels' greatest strength, their numbers, into a weakness. He found the perfect spot, somewhere along the Roman road, known as Watling Street. The exact location is still debated by historians, but it was a narrow valley or defile, with a thick forest protecting his rear and flanks. The Britons would have to charge him head-on through a narrow funnel, where their vast numbers would be useless. The Britons were incredibly confident of victory. So confident, in fact, that they had brought their families to watch the battle. They parked thousands of wagons in a huge semicircle behind their army, creating an arena for what they expected to be the final destruction of the Romans in Britain. This decision would prove to be a catastrophic mistake. As the battle began, Boudica rode in her chariot along the lines of her warriors, with her daughters beside her, delivering one last fiery speech, urging them to fight for freedom or die. Then, with a thunderous roar, the massive British force charged. They surged into the narrow valley, right into Suetonius's trap. The confined space meant only the front ranks of the Britons could engage the Romans. The rest just pushed from behind, a disorganized, chaotic mass. The disciplined Roman legions held their ground. On command, they unleashed a devastating volley of their heavy throwing spears, the pila, which punched through British shields and flesh, causing chaos and breaking the momentum of the charge. Then Suetonius ordered the advance. The legionaries formed their famous wedge formations and marched forward like a relentless meat grinder. Protected by their large shields and using their short, stabbing swords, they were brutally efficient killing machines. The Britons, packed tightly together, could barely swing their long swords. They fell in droves. Soon, the front ranks tried to retreat, but they couldn't. They were trapped. A massive crowd behind them pushed them forward, and the semicircle of their own supply wagons blocked any escape to the rear. The battle turned into a horrific, one-sided slaughter. Tacitus wrote that the Romans spared no one. Men, women, children, and even the pack animals were cut down. By the end of the day, an estimated 80,000 Britons lay dead. The Romans had lost only about 400 men. It was a total, crushing victory for Rome. Boudica and her daughters managed to escape the carnage, but her army was gone. Her dream of a free Britain was shattered, and she knew what fate awaited her if captured. Being paraded through the streets of Rome in chains as part of a humiliating triumph. She would not give the Romans that satisfaction. According to the most common account, she took her own life by drinking poison. The warrior queen who had brought the Roman Empire to its knees in Britain died a free woman on her own terms. The revolt was over, but its impact was profound. It had been a very close call for Rome. For a moment, they had seriously considered abandoning the province of Britain altogether. Instead, the revolt led to a major shift in Roman policy. The harsh military rule was replaced with a more conciliatory approach, aimed at winning the cooperation of the British tribes, rather than just suppressing them. Today, Boudica is remembered as one of history's greatest warrior queens, and a powerful symbol of defiance against oppression. In a beautiful twist of irony, a magnificent statue of her in her war chariot now stands proudly on Westminster Bridge in London, looking out over the Houses of Parliament in the very heart of the city she once burned to the ground. She remains an enduring icon of freedom and resistance. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into history, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.
And that wraps up today's 15-minute battle. If you want to master more moments of military history in less time, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you for the next 15-minute battle.